Good morning. I would like to thank you for sharing your experiences through this interview. Tell us about your life before the service, where you were born. Today is May 1st, 2012. We are interviewing Vernon L. Burkhart, who was born March 20th of 1924 and served in the Navy as a medic during World War II. My name is Tona Francis, and I am a friend of Vernon. We are in Troy, Ohio for this recording. The interview is being conducted for the Miami County Veterans History Project in the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. The project is sponsored by Mission Veterans to D.C. of Piqua, Ohio. Where were you born, Vernon?
In New Bremen, Ohio.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 4 brothers. One passed away shortly after birth, and just one sister.
And what did your father do to provide for your family?
We were farmers and hay and straw dealers.
Where did you go to school?
Holgate, Ohio.
And what did you do before you entered the service?
I helped Dad and my brother farm and do the other work that we had.
Were any other of your family members in the service?
Yes.
And their names and what branch?
I had a younger brother, Donald. He was in the Army. And a baby brother, Franklin. He was in the Army.
Okay. And how did you enter the service, sir? Were you drafted or did you enlist?
Drafted.
And do you remember, were you out of school at that time?
I was just I graduated in May of '42 and went and got my notice in October to report in April of '43.
Okay, and did you choose a specific branch of service, or did they tell you where you were going to be put?
I chose the Navy, and that's where they put me.
I see here you served from April of 1943 to May of 1946. Where did you depart for your training?
I had boot camp at Great Lakes, Illinois. After that, I got a furlough, and then I went to the hospital Corps School, Naval Hospital in Great Lakes for training. And from there, then I went to Portsmouth, Virginia for 1 month in the hospital as a medic. And then they sent me down the coast to Cherry Point, North Carolina, the Marine Corps base. Transferred me into the Marine Corps, but I was still a Navy personnel. I worked with the Marine Corps.
Okay, how was barrack life and food? Did you have much of that when you went to camp?
Well, the camp was all right. A lot of times when we went out with the Marines on training in North Carolina, they call it the boondocks, the training place. Sometimes we ate out of the tin can, the sea rations, and once in a while the cook came by. We had a good meal, but a lot of times we ate the sea rations.
So when you were in training camp, did you actually learn how to shoot guns and that?
No.
Or no? They just wanted you to be a medic and you went?
I was their medical personnel.
Okay.
I did crawl on my belly a lot of times on their training. They got me out once in a while, and I trained with them quite a bit.
But you never had to shoot a gun?
No.
Or take anybody prisoner or anything like that?
We never carried any.
Did you ever take care of any Prisoners? Did you ever have to have surgery on any prisoners?
No.
Nothing like that. It was all servicemen.
It was all service, all men and women.
So you never went abroad. You stayed here and worked on people that were injured from the war.
Yes, ma'am.
So where did you go after you were in North Carolina? Or, wait a minute. You were in several places in North Carolina. So how did that work? How did you would start out a medic at one place?
Well, I got assigned to one ground unit. I trained with them for their 6 weeks. When they pulled out, they left. I got transferred to another unit, trained with them. They left. I just kept training with the people as their medic, but when they left, I stayed and went to another unit. I went to the ground troops in North Carolina and Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. We practiced beach landings out on the beach in South Carolina. And after that, then I go back into Cherry Point. If Marine Corps didn't have anything, I'd go back to the hospital. I worked at night duty in the surgery ward. So then I got transferred into the Marine, the F4U fighter plane squadron. I was with them about 8 months. My duty there wasn't much. I had the ambulance with me, and I was on the flight line, what they called, along with a fire truck that was manned by 2 Marines, and we had a sergeant with a Jeep that we got orders from him, and he got orders from the tower. When the first plane took off in the morning, I was there. When the last plane landed at night, I was on the flight line for about 8 months.
That's a long day. So did you have a lot of wounded?
No, I didn't. The pilots came in wonderful. There was only one time his engine stopped as he's about ready to take off. But he got out and he was all right. He never left the ground. His engine stopped.
Any other stories? Were you on the ship and had to do surgery at all?
I wasn't on any ship, but I didn't do, well, all it was when I was out on a training with the Marines, cuts and bruises and band-aids and everything like that. Anything major, I sent back to the hospital.
Did you meet anyone that you still stay in touch with? Friendships, camaraderies?
No, I don't.
But you had a lot of friends at the time in the service?
I had a lot of them.
Were they from all over the U.S. or?
All over, every state in the Union. One especially he was from Iowa. We had pretty good times together.
So you did have some recreation and off-duty pursuits possibly?
No, there was no recreation, but mostly we went into town.
So they didn't have like ball games or volleyball or?
Nothing.
Nothing like that?
Nothing.
And when you went into town, did you go to certain places for the servicemen or?
Well, I went and watched them dance. There was a club there one night. I never danced and everything, but we did go to movies and stuff like that. But we went into town mostly to go out on the coast and get seafood and eat. I was filled up with oysters from head to toe. They were good, fresh in out of the water. But
So what did you do when the war was over?
Well, after a while, when the war was over, they kind of slowed down the training a little, not very much. So they sent me back to the hospital, and that's where I went into the operating room. I went up there, and the nurse told me to observe all operations and learn what they did. You be the MA to the doctor that's doing the surgery. And on the other side of the table, I had my partner, which was a lady Wave from Minnesota. She handled her part of the stuff, like the small singers and the sew and stuff, and I had the instrument tray that I had everything ready for the doctor to take out of my hand. I worked in there until I was discharged.
Did you have many casualties come home from the war to work on, or?
We had quite a few of the boys from Guadalcanal. They told some mighty good stories, which I won't repeat.
It's understandable. But you were able to help them along their way.
Well, a lot of it was shrapnel. We took out of as I say, there was rumors around that we could build an automobile from the metal we took out of the boys that returned from Guadalcanal. That must have been a bloody mess.
Can only imagine. Then what did you do when you were discharged from the service? Where did you go?
I came back to Holgate, Ohio, where my parents lived. I stayed there. I worked 4 jobs. The longest I worked with any of them was about 4 nights. I said, nights not for me, so I quit all 4 of them. I went to Toledo as an interview with NCR, which I didn't know what they stood for. I went to Toledo one morning. I walked upstairs, tried to open the door, and the room was filled with people waiting to be interviewed. I thought to myself, no way will I get in here. So I went back down, I went back to the car, and it was about 4 o'clock. I parked my car at a fruit stand, and right next door was a big brick building, and a bunch of trucks were pulling in at 4 o'clock. I looked at the sign that said gas company. I said, well, those are little trucks from what I was driving all the time. I drove semis for quite a while. We were hauling hay and straw and everything else. So I went upstairs. The girl met me at the door. She said, we're leaving for today, but they'll be home tomorrow, or here tomorrow. I said, okay. So she said, you can fill out an application. They are hiring. So I went back to the car, and Holgate was just 50 miles north of Toledo. I said, well, I'm here, but it's December the 23rd. I turned the radio on. I got the weather report, and it said the temperature in the morning would be around 42. What'll I do? I had a blanket in my trunk. I slept in the car that night. Next morning, or during the night, I warmed the car up. I was kind of cold. Turned the engine back off. And I went back to bed in the back seat again and woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, I'm up. I seen a Keepy hamburger joint about 3 blocks away. So I walked up there, got me a small hamburger and a cup of coffee for 12 cents. 7 cents for the donut, and a nickel for the coffee. I went back to the car, and I sat there. I said, well, I won't be anxious too much. I'll wait for about 10 after 8 when they open up. I went up there, and she gave me an application to fill out. Told me to wait for them. I only waited a little bit, and I got called into the manager's office. We got to talking. His son was in the Navy later, and he was from Holgate, and he wanted to know if I knew him. I said, well, he only lives 2 doors from where I do, right in his neighborhood. So he said, I got one question. He said, how far is it from Holgate to Toledo? I said, 50 miles. He said, you don't intend to drive that every day, do you? I said, no, sir. I said, I've been on my own for a long time. I'll get a room here and go home on Friday night. And I'll stay here all week. He said, fine. He said, when can you go to work? I said, Monday morning. And I went to work for the Ohio Fuel Gas Company, which later they changed the name about half a dozen times, became Columbia Gas and then Columbia Energy, and I worked for them.
For how many years?
36 years. In Toledo, Urbana, and Springfield.
When you got out of the service, did you get married right away, or?
No, I didn't get married till April of '49.
Is this a girl from home, or someone you
No.
met when you were working?
No, it was a girl from Toledo.
So you lived in Toledo then when you got married?
Yes,
And did you have any children while you were there?
we had 3 children. 2 girls and a boy.
And their names?
The oldest girl was Barbara. The next girl was Rita, and our son was David.
And did any of them join the service or have military time?
No, none of them did.
When you came home from the service, was there any fanfare or any parades or anything, World War II, when you came home?
Not one thing. After I got my discharge papers, I got on the B&O, headed east to Holgate, or Defiance is where it stopped. I got off in Defiance Station. It was about 3 blocks from Main Street. So I threw my sea bag over my shoulder and walked up the Main Street, which was Route 18. It went right through Holgate. I laid it on the sidewalk, and I sat there on the corner for about 5 minutes. Car pulled up, and he said, where are you going, sailor? I yelled out, Holgate, Ohio. He said, jump in. He said, I'm going right through there. So he took me right to Holgate.
Did your parents know you were coming home?
No, they didn't.
And were they there when you got there?
They were there.
Glad to see you, I'm sure.
Oh, man. When we pulled in the driveway, the driver mentioned, he said, there's a light on in the house. I said, yeah. I said, what time is it? And he said, 5:30. I said, well, my dad always get up around 5 o'clock, and he's probably sitting at the kitchen table. When I walked in, he was right there.
So when you farmed, you didn't have any animals or livestock to take care of?
I did the milking. My mother took care of the chickens, and I fed all the livestock and everything. I did the milking at 5:30 in the morning and 5:30 at night.
So there's a reason you're up early. Were your brothers and sisters still at home when you got home from the service?
Just the 2 brothers that were younger. The other 2 were married. My sister was married. My oldest brother was married.
Was it hard to readjust to life once you got home?
No, not really. I was, as I say, I tried to find what I wanted to do, and I couldn't find a job around there, so I went to Toledo.
So you didn't think about going into the medical?
No,
Wanted to get away from that?
I had seen enough medical.
I see. Do you have any memberships in veterans organizations now?
No, I don't.
Never joined the American Legion or VFW?
None of them.
None of them.
I'm kind of a loner, I'll tell you.
Do you ever contact any fellow veterans or know anyone from anything you've done from the service?
No,
Just got away from it when you got home?
everything.
Was anybody in your hometown? Did they go to the Navy or any branches of service that you know of?
Oh, there's quite a few of them. See, we were a small town, and there wasn't too many there, so their quota mostly came from there. If you were in a big city, there was a lot to choose from. So we had quite a few personnel going to service.
Quite a few from your class?
Yes, there was quite a few.
And you say you did graduate before you went in the service, or you almost
I
graduated?
graduated in May and went in service, or I got called up in around September or October. I left in April. April the 20th.
Do you think any of the wartime experiences affected your life?
Yes,
I would assume
I
so.
look at life different now.
Whole different perspective, isn't it?
Right.
Do you think you learned any life lessons from the military?
Yes, quite a few. That's the first thing they told us when we went to boot camp. The old sergeant, he was a Marine. He was a gunny sergeant. He said, I got one thing to tell you, recruits. He said, learn it and keep it in mind. He said, keep your eyes and your ears open, but your mouth shut. You'll get along okay. I remember that today.
And I'm sure it did good in those times. You really needed to pay attention to what was going on.
You didn't say nothing. If they said jump, you jumped.
You said how high?
How high?
Some of the things you did in boot camp then, were you ever on a boat and learn any parts of the boat, or?
We did for a little bit, but not a whole lot of training, no. It was mostly the fundamentals of the Navy.
Any of the people that you went to camp with, did they end up where you were at?
Yes, one person.
The one from Iowa?
No, the one from the nearby town.
I have some pictures that I want to take of different memorabilia that you have from when you were in the service. Vernon has kept his sailor's outfit, his cap, his medals. He has a World War II frame. We show his high school graduation, his communion, his family. His discharge. Places he's been, his certificate of instruction, order to report, and he received a letter from Harry Truman. He also saved some information of when he was a sailor, the things he needed, and his pictures from service time. Him in the operating room. When he got married. And later in life, his family, his wife, his sons and daughters. He took a trip to D.C. to see his memorial and met Senator Dole. He bought his mother a hanky when he was in the service. Here's his honorable discharge. Some friends in the Navy. His mother when he left for the Navy. These are from when he was in North Carolina. And here's a book he has of him in the service. He also has his belt that shows his name. And he also has some clothespins from the service, which we're not real sure. He'll have to tell us about those. Can you tell us about those clothespins?
Well, yes. Our pants had a slit about an inch long on both sides of our body. You put the string through those openings, hang it on the clothesline, and put a square knot in it to dry your clothes.
Oh my. So how many did each sailor get? So many per...
You got as many as you wanted.
I see. So you did your own laundry and then had to hang it up.
You hang it up. This is the clothes.
So did you stay at the barracks when you were in... After you had surgery, did you go back to the barracks? Is that where you stayed?
Yes. Our barracks was right next to the hospital. We had half of the barracks and the Marines had the rest of it. But the half of it was Navy personnel, right next to the hospital.
So you didn't have far to walk then?
No, ma'am. And they didn't have long to get us either.
I'm sure you were on call quite a bit, per se.
Yes.
Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
Well, not a whole lot.
I show your highest rank was PHM 3C. What does that mean?
Pharmacist mate, 3rd class.
And you had several medals while you were in the service?
Well, those were automatic.
Okay.
One of them was the regular World War II medal, the Encounter. The other was a World War II Victory Medal. And the plain red one was the Good Conduct 3-year medal for service.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for your service and thank you for this interview today.
Thank you.